Block 1. The Legacy of Strength. Why do our cities, from grand capitals to humble suburbs, look like gray monoliths? We have become accustomed to seeing concrete as a synonym for stability. It is the material our world stands on: bridges, skyscrapers, dams, and even the foundations of our homes. We build with concrete because it is cheap, reliable, and incredibly convenient. But if you have ever wondered where this gray mass comes from, the answer will horrify you. Behind every wall erected lies an invisible but colossal price that our planet pays for our obsession with strength. We build our comfort using a material whose production itself is a threat to our children's future. The historical foundation. Our fascination with concrete did not begin in the industrial age. The ancient Romans, masters of architecture, were the first to perfect opus caementium technology. Their concrete pantheon, the largest unreinforced dome in the world, has stood for nearly 2,000 years. Back then, concrete seemed like a true gift from the gods, a mixture of volcanic ash and lime that allowed for the creation of forms the Greeks could only dream of. It was an architectural triumph that combined aesthetics, material efficiency, and unshakable power. We merely inherited this passion for stone, turning concrete into the skeleton of our entire modern civilization. But there is a significant difference. The Romans used natural resources with minimal processing, whereas modern production requires industrial aggression. The statistic of the invisible killer, but behind this aesthetic power lies an ecological catastrophe. If the cement industry were a separate nation, it would rank third in the world in terms of carbon dioxide emissions, surpassed only by China and the United States. Cement, the crucial binding component of concrete, is responsible for 8% of all global anthropogenic CO2 emissions. Just imagine, that is more than the entire global aviation industry combined. Every second, as you read these lines, factories around the world are releasing tons of carbon into the sky to produce even more stone. By building our future, we are literally burning the atmosphere right now, creating foundations that stand on the smoking ruins of our ecology. Block 2. The illusion of choice. The chemistry of the process. Why is concrete so dirty? To understand the problem, one must look inside the clinker kiln. This is the heart of cement production. To turn limestone and clay into cement, temperatures of around 1,450 degrees Celsius are required. To reach such heat, factories burn colossal amounts of coal or gas. But that is only half the trouble. The chemical reaction itself, calcination, requires the release of carbon that has been locked in limestone for millions of years. Even if we transitioned all factories to clean energy, the very process of turning raw materials into cement would still release CO2. It is a chemical trap from which we have not been able to escape for decades because there was no way to avoid using limestone. Why haven't we found an alternative? You might ask, aren't there other materials? Wood, steel, modern composites? Yes, they exist. Wood is a wonderful material, but try building a skyscraper that meets modern fire safety standards in a metropolis out of it. Steel is strong, but its production also requires huge energy expenditures. Concrete is unique because it is liquid when poured, which allows for the creation of any shape, and after hardening, it becomes virtually eternal and fireproof. We have become hostages to a material that is ideal for the needs of a metropolis, but absolutely incompatible with the requirements of ecological sustainability. We have become victims of our own progress. Concrete made our cities possible, but it also made them carbon bombs. The economic paradox. Moreover, concrete is incredibly cheap. The cost of transporting raw materials is minimal since limestone is found almost everywhere. In an economy where the price of a cubic meter of material determines the budget of the entire project, concrete has no competitors. An attempt to replace it with something eco-friendly often hits a wall of market prices. We build with concrete not because it is the best material, but because it is the easiest way to capitalize on urban space. We have ignored our ecological footprint for years, focusing on return on investment, turning the construction sector into the largest source of long-term damage to the planet. The tipping point. The world realized this paradox too late. When global warming became a reality, rather than a theory, we found ourselves at a dead end. We have two paths: either stop the growth of cities, dooming billions of people to live in conditions of housing shortages or continue destroying the planet for the sake of progress. However, the history of science proves that a dead end is merely an invitation to innovation. Right now, we are at the very point where the concrete crisis is forcing humanity to rethink the entire chemistry of construction. Block 3. The Carbon Renaissance. What if concrete ceased to be the enemy? Today, scientists are working on technologies that change the very essence of the material. The key lies in so-called carbon capture. By capturing CO2 directly from factory smokestacks, we can use it not for storage in the ground, but for injection into the concrete mix. As a result of a chemical reaction, carbon mineralizes. It literally turns into stone within the concrete itself. A building ceases to be a source of emissions and turns into a giant sponge that has absorbed carbon from the atmosphere. We are learning to lock the problem inside its own solution. Materials from the atmosphere, we are transitioning from extractive chemistry to managed chemistry. Modern science shows carbon, which we have become accustomed to considering waste, is actually a building block of life. CCU technologies allow for the conversion of captured carbon into fibers for clothing, components for plastic, and, most importantly, high-strength additives for construction. We are literally assembling the skeleton of the future from it. This requires enormous effort, the development of infrastructure, new chemical reactors, and a shift in the engineer's mindset. But it works. We are turning our carbon footprint into a carbon handprint. Answering the question, why do we still build with concrete? Before, it was because we knew no other way. Now, it is because this path is turning into the solution. We build with concrete to transform the legacy of destruction into an instrument of salvation. We take what our ancestors created and, with the help of modern science, rewrite its recipe. This is not just construction, it is an act of engineering redemption. We use concrete to compress the carbon that could have warmed the planet into inert stone that will stand for another millennium. Completion, we are not giving up on concrete. We are giving up on the idea that construction must destroy the earth. We are changing our philosophy itself. The city of the future is not just a concrete jungle. It is a man-made forest that absorbs carbon. The next time you touch the gray wall of a skyscraper, remember, perhaps this building is not a threat, but a way we are learning to breathe cleaner. The future is already being built, and it is stronger than you thought. Science has come full circle. We started with stone, and through atmospheric chemistry, we are returning to it, but on a completely different level of consciousness. We build from the past to save tomorrow.